Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of people that have been impacted by the healing ministry of Loma University Medical Center. We're here in the studio at LLBN, and just down the road is one of the hospitals. We have 5 hospitals here at Loma Linda, and we are having about 750,000 outpatient visits a year. 30,000 plus inpatient visits. People of all different backgrounds and people from around the world come here. And our special guest today is a very unusual individual, outstanding athlete, former Olympian, had renal failure, had some heart problems, had cancer, but he was an exceptional athlete that enabled him to go through many of these experiences. Our special guest is Ronaldo Brown. Ronaldo, we're glad to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
We're going to learn about the tremendous journey that you've been on. But I know as I've gotten acquainted with you, you were in not just one Olympics, but you were in 2. In 1968, and that was in Mexico City.
Yes.
And in 1972.
Yeah, Munich, Germany. I was an alternate at Munich, Germany.
You were an alternate there. Yeah. Now, as I read the records and some of the reports here, it appears as though you set a record in high school for high jumping.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was the first high schooler to jump 7 feet in high school. So, it was I had great coaches, and it was something that I wanted to do. I grew up in the city of Compton, and growing up as a kid, I wanted to do. I kept seeing the guys before me, Willie Mays, Wilt Chamberlain, and those guys, they motivated me to do things.
Some great role models.
Great role models, yeah. And I kind of figured, they talked about them coming up and, living in a poor area or whatever, and, athletics took them to the next level. And I thought it would be a great thing for me to get in some kind of athletics because I was tall and I didn't want to just waste my height, and it worked for me.
So you're 6'6".
Yes.
And were you 6'6" in high school?
I was 6'6" in high school, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So now, what other sports were you involved in?
Basketball also. I played basketball, from junior high school to high school.
In fact, as we were visiting, I learned that you were in the 68, 69, you had some kind of a record there. What was it?
Yeah, our team, our 68 team and our 69 team, we won 62 straight games.
62 straight games.
Yes, and we still hold that record today. And today, after I leave this interview, I'm going out to Compton because they're going to be honoring us for for that achievement.
Well, that is, so we're talking about 40 years ago.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, so you grew up in a home and athletics became very important to you, and you saw it as a way of kind of breaking out, and you had some other role models that you were looking at. So at the young age of 17, I think you were the youngest to participate in the Olympics that year. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the men's track and field team, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I understand you did quite well. Is that when you came in 5th?
I finished 5th, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So things were going well for you. You went on to college. I think, was it Cal Poly?
Yes, Cal Poly up in San Luis Obispo.
And why did you choose to go to Cal Poly?
Well, because I had, traveled the world. I figured I was going to be traveling a lot, and I figured I just wanted to go somewhere that wasn't too far, and I was going to live in California after college anyway. So I wanted to, stay in California, and I didn't want to go too far, so I went up to Cal Poly. I had a friend named Lowell Henry who, talked about Cal Poly, and we went up to visit, and I just fell in love with it. And I said, okay, this is for me.
It's a beautiful
campus.
And you majored in what?
Communications at that time.
And you graduated there with a degree there
yes.
in communications and information systems and so forth.
Yes.
So after you graduated, were you still taking part in sports?
Yes, because at that time, my high jumping, I guess I was really at my, peak or whatever.
Really excelling.
Excelling, yeah. And I continued to jump. I, won the NCAA, for Cal Poly, I guess 4 times or something like that. And, set numerous records and, but the thing that I liked about it was the travel. I got to travel. I got to see things in the world that I knew that I wouldn't be able to pay for, after college or even if I was working,
And there's an education in
And
travel and going to all the different peoples.
Oh man, it was an education. It was really great. I really enjoyed it.
So after you graduated, where'd you end up going to work?
I went to work at Hughes Aircraft in El Segundo at that time, and I stayed with Hughes until I started in '76, and I worked there until '92 when I got caught up in the layoff there. And after they laid me off, I wanted to do something different, so I went into computers. They retrained me. They paid for my computer training, and I worked for a company called Intercom, and then I went to work for IEHP, which was a company here in San Bernardino, healthcare.
And again, this was the computers and
I would work for
information systems.
Yeah, Inland Empire Health Plan. I worked for them as a computer operator there.
Now, were you still over the years still being active in athletics?
I was, yes. They had what is called the senior games and what have you. So I continued to jump in as a senior.
So you were
in the master's program.
You were in the master's program and participating in the seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that when you were at Hughes, is that when you met your wife?
I met my wife Carol at Hughes Aircraft.
Okay,
yes.
and got married, and you have 4 children now?
4 kids, yes.
And you got 9 grandchildren.
9 grandkids, yes.
And fortunately, they're all apparently here in the Southern California area.
Yes.
So things are going along pretty well.
Yes.
And life is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2004, things begin to happen.
Yeah, things.
Tell us what happened in 2004.
Well, in 2004, it was a year that, since '68, I haven't taken a break from high jumping. I
just been going
for the last 39, 40 years or whatever, whatever time between, '04. And I decided, okay, I told Carol, my wife, I said, well, you know what, this year, '04, I'm going to rest the whole year.
Take a year off.
Take a year off and just rest. And everything was going good, and so I started in January of '04. Everything was fine. I just took a rest. I come home every day, cut back on everything, and just see what's going on at the home, and maybe we can do some other things together, she and I. And everything was going fine from January to June. Then I started having problems. People say when you take off, you don't do anything, you start gaining weight. Well, I felt myself gaining a little weight, but then I said, okay, maybe I better just go out and run or something and try to,
not
maintain
get completely out of shape.
Exactly, But it was more than that, But I didn't really, I'd never been sick or anything, so I didn't know what was going on. I just saw my body changing, I put on a pair of pants. I had some 501 jeans, and I put them on. I couldn't fit them no more. And I said,
they shrunk, huh?
Yeah. It was getting tight in the, legs and what have you, so I didn't worry about it. But then it got to the point where
I'm an athlete. I'll get back in shape.
I'll get back, and I put on the rest of the clothes. Everything was getting too tight. And then my wife was saying, "Oh, look like you're gaining weight, and your face is a little fatter." And I'm saying, "Well," she said, "You feel okay?" I said, "Yeah." And at that time, when I was swelling up and whatever, I didn't know it was that serious.
But something was happening.
But something was happening. Yeah, it was more than just gaining weight, the weight that you can burn off. It was fluid building up, And I had never had any problems with my kidneys, or heart or any of that I noticed.
You've been a strong athlete, and everything, you kind of bounce back and have a little rough weekend or a rough week or two, but you're back at it, back in the gym, back working out, and everything kind of comes back together. But you were kind of going downhill.
I was going downhill and didn't realize it,
And didn't realize it. Your wife was making some observations.
She was making a lot of
You didn't realize it was as bad as it was.
And I kept telling her, "Oh, no, don't worry about it, You just want me to be sick or something, But it was really happening,
So what was happening?
Well, what I found out, one night, I wanted to change my career. So I said I'll go into real estate. So I went to Vegas. I said I wanted to be a real estate agent. So I went to Vegas. I took the training and all that. And she came up that last week that I was in the training. We came back home, and we went out to eat. And I was really feeling weird, but I didn't realize it was that serious. And the thing that really shocked me though, when it was time to eat, I didn't eat all my food. I only ate a little bit, and I was full. And I kept saying, "Wow, something,
this isn't normal.
Yeah,
Got a big plate of food, and I'm hungry."
Yeah, I felt hungry, but I couldn't put it in. It wouldn't stay down. And so I said, "Okay, we're gonna go." As a matter of fact, we took a walk after I ate a little bit of food, and everything was fine. We walked about a half a mile or whatever, and back and forth. And we came back, and I laid down. As soon as I laid down, then I couldn't catch my breath. And
You're
she said, "What's wrong?"
running out of breath.
Yeah, I'm running out of breath when I laid down to go to bed that night, about 9 o'clock. And she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing." I said nothing at first, and then I had to jump up because it scared me.
Shortness of breath.
Shortness of breath. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I can't get my breath." So I ran outside to see if that would help. Maybe I needed some air. So I went outside. I leaned on the car, and I was still going, huffing and puffing. And she said, "Something's wrong. Let's go to the emergency." And then, like most men, I'm saying, "No, I don't. I'm all right. I don't need to go to the hospital." And so we went back in the house, and it happened again after I laid down. And I said, "Oh, okay, let's go." So the great thing about it, we was close to Loma, Linda, and so Carol said, "Well, we're going to Loma, Linda," because we couldn't think of any place else. And I said, "I don't know if they'll take me." Anyway, I went in there. But the crazy thing about it, I waited 12 hours in emergency, so I'm sitting there.
I was going to say, if you go to the normal ER, many ERs, people use in the ER like their primary physician.
Yeah.
Don't go to the ER unless you're critical, because I can say you'll stay in there 12 to 15 hours. Mm-hmm. But you were in there for 12 hours. Finally, they
didn't. Finally, I got in, and they didn't realize I was as sick as I was. And, and when I got in there, man, they just started working on me like, they almost knew what was going on, But
at this point, you still didn't know.
I still didn't know. I'm thinking that, okay, a cold, maybe just flu or something, But the way the young lady, it was a lady doctor. I mean, she was incredible, man. I mean, she was working at that ER. I mean, that emergency.
So there's a lot of people working with you.
Yeah, she had people just calling up everything, bring in this, bring in that. And I'm seeing all these machines coming in, and I'm saying, "What do I need that for?" And she said, and then after this, she hooked me up to all this stuff, and she checked me for my prostate and that kind of stuff. And I'm saying, "Well, I didn't even, I didn't know that much about the prostate and all that." And so she said,
This is all in the ER.
In the ER, yeah.
Okay. Well, generally they don't check the prostate in the ER, but
she
there's
did,
other things going on. Apparently.
Yeah, well, she knew something was going on, so she checked it, and then she said, then she came back. She said, "Well, how long have you had renal failure?" And I didn't know what renal failure was. I said, "What?
How long have I had what?"
And then she said, your kidneys are going out." I said, "My kidneys?" And I felt fine. I didn't know that my kidney was going out, but then that explained all this fluid buildup, and I wasn't urinating.
You put on a lot of fluid.
Yeah, I put on a lot of fluid
retention in the arms and the legs.
Everything was swelled up. Even my eyes were like
really kind of puffy.
Yeah, puffy and what have you. And but
so she's telling you you're having renal failure.
Yeah, and so I'm saying, "Okay, what is renal failure?" And she said kidneys are going out, bad kidneys or whatever. And I said, "Oh man, I just it just
so
shocked
how do you
me,
fix
man.
it, huh?"
Yeah, how you fix that? And so my third day, they got me a bed and all that. Well, before they even did that, I guess I was shortness of breath again. They bought this mask to put on me, and I kept pulling it off.
To help you to breathe?
To help me breathe. And I guess I was really getting scared, and I kept pulling the thing off. And if somehow they came and they had to tie it on my face because I kept pulling it off, I said, "I don't need that." They said, "You do." But anyway, they pulled it off. I mean, I let it. Carol kept saying, "Ray, stop. And so I kind of listened to her, and then I started breathing better. And then they put me in a bed, and they said, "Get him up to somewhere." And, I was in there for like 17 days, right?
17 days.
Yeah, 7 days.
You go in, not sure what's wrong,
right.
And you're in there for 17 days.
Yes.
So they're doing all kinds of testing and performing all kinds of things on you. So what's going through your mind at this point?
I'm trying to figure out what's going on because because I wasn't hurting. I didn't have any pain. No pain. So I figured I was okay. And usually a person is sick.
Oh yeah.
You got pain, or they say this hurt, that hurt, and they kept asking me, "Do this hurt?" No, it don't hurt. Nothing was hurting. And so I felt I was okay, and they was overreacting, But I said,
"You're making too much out of this thing."
Yeah. And so I said, well, okay, I'll just lay here and see what happens. My third day in ICU, then they said, we're going to put you on dialysis. I said, dialysis? What's that? And then again, this big machine come, rolling in here, and I'm looking at this big machine like, oh man, what are they gonna do with all of, all these gadgets on it? And we're gonna hook you up to it.
So they bring in a big machine for dialysis, and for our listening audience, dialysis is for somebody that's in renal failure. Their kidneys are not functioning properly.
Correct.
And so the dialysis is to help with that.
Yeah.
And is this a matter that they hook you up for 10 minutes?
No, it was a matter where they hook you up for 3 hours.
For 3 hours?
Yeah, for 3 hours a day. No, that was at 4 hours. It was a long time, 3 or 4 hours.
While you're in the hospital?
While I'm in the hospital. And I'm sitting there, I'm laying there, and finally the guy came, he, put some holes in they did it through the groin, at that time. And so I lay there and I watched this blood going through this machine, is filtering it and what have you. Okay, and I said, well, maybe I do need it. My blood looked like it was dirty, because I know blood was supposed to be red or whatever, so it didn't look, like
didn't
bright.
look like it should, you thought.
And so I said, okay, maybe this is my oil change. They changed, So I'm watching it go through and making all this noise, and so I'm learning this, And every 3, so I said, well, how long is this going to be? And they said, you're going to do this 3 days a week. I said, 3 days a week? And then I started thinking, well, how am I going to practice? How am I going to get up?
I'm going to get out of the hospital, and I got some games to play and some jumping to do.
Places to go,
Yeah, 3 days a week for how many weeks?
Yeah, and I'm thinking, it goes for a number of days or whatever, a month or whatever, and I'm off.
Yeah.
All right, well, after I got better, after my 17 days in there, they let me go home. Then they said, okay, now we're going to set you up to go to the dialysis center across the street. I said, Dallas, okay, all right. So I went across the street, and they said, okay, every day, every other day. So at that time it was Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah.
But not just for 1 week.
Yeah, not for 1 week. I was in there from 04 to 06. And
so you're going in there 3 times a week. Now, I have learned that people that are on dialysis, you're either going in for the dialysis that day, or you're recovering from the dialysis and resting up and going back for the dialysis right after that. I mean, it's the totality of your survival existence. That's what it is. Every day, every other day, you're either getting ready for it or you're recovering for it.
And that's what I kept seeing every day. I kept saying, going back and forth, and I kept saying, all I'm doing is eating, drinking, and then they come and take this stuff
dialysis.
off. And then I said, wow. So I had to really make an adjustment like that, And plus, I was already weak. I was so weak. Dialysis, if you've never been on dialysis, man,
bad.
It's bad. It's bad. But you gotta believe that you're gonna, get past it or, get used to it or something, because those days that I sat in there in dialysis and I'm watching, it's like 20 people in there, and everybody, got all kind of different things wrong, right? And I kept saying, well, I don't have everything that these other people have, but...
So I'm not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. And I kept saying, well, okay, I'll be off. So I remember after I got a little bit better, to the point where I can, I was catching my breath. I wasn't running, getting, losing my wind or whatever. I asked the doctors when they came to visit. They do a checkup every month. I said, and they kept saying, your labs are looking good, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, when can I get off? And the doctor, he looked at me, he said, the only way you're going to get off is with a transplant. I said, a transplant? I said, a kidney transplant? He said, yeah. Again, I'm saying my kidneys...
They don't feel bad.
They don't feel bad. I said, my kidneys, they probably were just tired from me, doing all that excursion, running and jumping all over.
What he's really saying is, you don't get off of this.
Yeah, you don't get off of it.
This is a lifetime thing, or you're going to have a kidney transplant. Now, we missed one important thing as we're talking. When you were in the hospital, there's something else that happened with your hospital, something that having to do with your heart.
Oh, the heart, yeah. When I was in there, I think it was like the second week, I'm laying in the bed and I'm talking. My wife was there, Carol was talking, and the nurse was talking. He was coming back and forth, and... they had the monitor going. The monitor was like it's supposed to. And just as he came in and he was talking to me, then something went like that. And the guy, so I heard it and saw it. My wife saw it. And he said, oh, you just had a heart attack. I said, a heart attack? I said, I didn't feel anything. He said, well, the machine is showing it right here. And then there was another problem. So here I am laying in there on dialysis. Now I had a heart attack, you know.
And they also, was sometime during this time frame, they discovered that you had prostate cancer.
Yeah, and then the second week, right after the heart attack, then the guy came in and said, okay, we got your labs for your prostate, and you got prostate cancer. We're going to have to remove your prostate. I'm laying there like, oh, man. 3 things, you know, and I know, you know, most people don't even survive 1 or 2 things. I got 3 things, man. And
so you had heart, you
Yeah.
got cancer, and you're on dialysis, your kidneys are in failure. So you're watching these patients as you go in, and you're seeing that they're not getting any better.
They're not getting any better.
And you're not like they are. You're
Yeah.
going to get better. And your doctor says, hey, the only thing you're going to do is you're going to have a transplant. That's the only solution.
Right.
But you determine that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. I kept telling the doctor, I said, I even told him that day, I didn't know nothing about dialysis. I thought he was just kidding me because he was smiling, you know. He said, no, you need a transplant. Your kidneys are gone. You know, it was to the point where I couldn't urinate or anything. So, okay, I understand that. But, you know, suppose, you know, I start, you know, urinating again, and he didn't want to hear it. You know, it's like, okay, yeah,
You're just one of those patients. You'll finally figure out that.
So I told him, I said, well, doc, I said, well, I'll probably be the first one to get off without a transplant. He laughed again. You know, the guys here at Loma was, they were great. But
so what did you do?
Sense of humor. What I did was I looked around. Each day that I came in there, I watched everybody. I kept saying, well, something they're not doing right. You know, we come in, we weigh ourselves, they take us, take the
same thing,
stuff off time after time. And I said, okay, what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start walking. And that was the first thing they said, no, we don't want you to walk. And then I kept saying, well, okay, whenever something's wrong, I had to bring in my athletic, training.
Begin focusing.
Yeah, focusing. I kept saying, well, okay, I didn't know how to high jump until I got a coach, and I started doing the things right. You know, what they taught me, I kept practicing. Even though I kept knocking that bar down, I kept saying, well, okay, I'm going to jump until I don't knock that bar down and do everything correctly. And I said, well, I have to do the same thing in dialysis. I have to be able to get up without falling. Because on dialysis, it's something that really
So
takes
you began,
on.
our time is running by here, but you began walking at home.
Yes.
What did you do?
My goal was to walk 3 miles. But what I did, I couldn't walk from, 3 or 4 feet, 6 feet at home. So what I did, I said, okay, if I walked that little space, I kept falling. I said, well, maybe I better get a chair. So I got a chair, and when I got to that spot, I'll sit down. And then I'll catch my breath again. Then I'll try to go further. So I had to keep telling myself to train and walk further and whatever. But I had this chair with me.
So little by little you started. So over a period of a year, it took you a year where you're getting out and you're walking. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you had surgery for your prostate.
I had the surgery for the prostate.
Okay, and you told me something very interesting there, because sometimes people that have had prostate surgery, they do have some complications.
They do.
What's the difference? Because you were saying you talked to one of your friends.
Yeah, I talked to one of my friends. Well, Dr. Baldwin here at Loma Linda.
The urologist.
The greatest guy, man. He laid it all down. He called me in his office, and that was the scariest thing when he
went through all the different things.
Went through all these different things, and he kept telling me the ups and the downs and all this. What do you want to do? And I said, I was putting my faith in him because I really got a connection with him.
Sure.
And he said, if you follow my directions, do what I tell you to do, you shouldn't have a problem.
Okay, that's a critical point that we want our audience to listen to, because what you discovered, the difference between you and one of your friends, is you followed the counsel and the instructions in terms of the follow-up, and it alleviated many of the problems and some of the side effects that other men have. Now, we're coming down to the end of our time here. You overcame. You're no longer on dialysis.
No longer
because
on
of your
dialysis.
persistence.
Yeah.
You're on top of your heart problem now.
Right.
And you're still actively involved. You're building up your strength.
Yes.
And you're helping, I understand you're helping other Olympians. You told me that you went over and were counseling somebody that was in the hospital recently.
Yes.
So you're actively involved.
Yes.
What's the future hold for you?
The future holds for me is just, like I said, following the directions of whoever gives it to you. Like I say, when Dr. Baldwin asked me to do this, do that, I did it. And everything that he told me to do, it worked. And after my 6-week checkup, I went to see him. Everything was fine. He was really impressed. He kept saying, well, you don't have to use the pads anymore or whatever. You know, I said, no, I'm finished with it. He said, oh, man, well, that's great. And just by him saying that made me really feel good. And I said, well, okay, well, what I'm going to do is when I have friends, I had some friends, like I said, who went through the same surgeries, but they had the complications. And I had to go back to those guys and say, look, did you do what the doctor asked you to do?
Follow the directions.
Follow the direction. They said no. They just had their surgeries and started doing whatever they was going to do. And
well, we're coming down to the end of our time, Ray, and I know that God is going to continue using you. I know that this weekend you're going up to San Francisco and participating in an event there, and then you're going to be going on up to the Winter Games.
Yes.
And you're actively involved,
yes.
and you're an inspiration to those that have known you and have watched you. And even though you've been actively involved as an athlete, you know, these different things came along, but they haven't stopped you.
No.
God's got a plan for your life. And you've been putting your trust in Him, and you've been listening to the doctors and following their counsel. And for those that are looking on, there are other people out there in the audience right now, just like you, Ray, that they've encountered one or two things that it doesn't need to stop them. They can persevere and pursue and listen to God's voice and pay careful attention to the instructions that the doctor has for them. For those of you that are looking on, you know, it's been a joy to get acquainted here with Ray and to hear his story and to know that God's going to continue to open and close doors for him. And for those of you that are looking on, God has a plan for your life. Give Him a chance. Put your trust in Him. I'm Lynn Martell for Journey of Hope, and we thank you for tuning in, for your support, for your prayers. Until next week, we want to wish you God's blessings. God bless you each one.
Boy, that went quick.